Okay, so this tutorial kind of goes along with the one I just showed on graphing in Excel. We've just kind of made our graphs, and maybe we're working on some finalized editing. First off, okay, there's a lot of things we can do to make this look nicer. Whenever I want to go and look, I can go up to this print area, and then it should kind of show me the way things, well, maybe not that, how things pan out from a graph standpoint. So none of my stuff is set in stone. I can always highlight it. If I come over here to like the top corner, I can move this stuff around. It'll kind of move with me to the left and to the right, and I can move things. Maybe I just want a little part. Maybe I want to take this column and move it over. I can do all that stuff really, really easily. The other way you can do that is by copy and pasting or cutting and pasting. I could highlight all this and hit Control X. That means cut. I could come over here and I say I want this box to now be that box, and I could Control V, that's paste. I'm going to paste those things into that box. If I don't like it, I could always undo and it goes back to its original location. So let's talk about just some basic general formatting. I forget this graph is here. We'll move this thing down to the bottom. And usually my recommendation is at the end of all this, copy and paste these things to a Word document. That seems to be easy to work with, or Google Docs, whatever it might be, and print them out that way. So first off, we can always change the size of these cells. I could come up here and I could drag this down and make this guy huge. I can make it really small. Likewise, I can make it wide or narrow. You can also make groups of them wide or narrow. I could come up here and say, hey, I want all these cells to have the same width of, let's say, we want to go to column width. I want them to all have the same width of, say, 20. Now, voila, they're all going to have a width of 20. I could also do that for the height. And that could make things look nicer for me as I type longer pieces of information in there. Numbers, obviously you put things in vertical rows. It's good to have headings of those rows. Never put units like 4.5 grams in a cell. It's not going to know what that means, and it won't be able to graph it. So keep that in mind. Okay, so we have this over here. We're in great shape. Let's talk about some general basic formatting, because when you guys type this up, it's not going to look like this. So when we go to format cells, that's kind of our end-all be-all for making things look differently. So highlight what you want. You can right-click, format cells, and let's look at some basic things. So first off, maybe we like the alignment. Maybe I want these words to be, letters to be centered in the boxes. I want them centered vertically and horizontally, and I can do that. So boom, there we go. We have these all nice and centered. Now they're in the middle, which is great for us. It looks really nice, looks neat. That helps us out a lot. Other things we can do in formatting are we can come in here and we can determine the number of sig figs. Maybe I want these guys to have 3 sig figs. So I want those to go to 2 decimal places. All right, but I don't want all those to go to 2 decimal places. I want these to go to 1 decimal place. And I can go ahead and change that to 1 decimal place. And then that will look like that. And that helps me kind of clean up the sig fig issue. We can do fun little things like change our fonts and values to superscripts. I can come up here and highlight that, and I can right click on it. I can go to format cell, and that lets me do things like superscripts and subscripts. I could strike through, whatever that means. I could font change or change the size of font. Lots of little things we can do to make our stuff look a little bit better and a little bit nicer. Okay, and you can do that by selecting large amounts of graphs and text, or you could select just one cell at a time. But we want to find ways to be efficient with this. So let's just I'm going to make a couple copies of this. I'm going to kind of show you maybe some more efficient ways to do this. Maybe this row right here and this row I care about, and maybe there are a couple select few in these. Rather than go through that whole process for each one, I can be selective in how I do this. So if I maybe highlight a couple cells, and then I hold the control button and come over and click other random cells or drag over random cells, all while I'm holding control, now I can basically change just those cells by themselves. I can right click, go down to format cell, and maybe I want those to be like aligned to the left, and I want those to have, I don't know, 3 sig figs or 3 decimal places. I can hit that, And voila, it will make those changes just to those cells for me, which is really, really nice. Other things you'll see me do is I like to put things in grids. So that's up here. These grid lines weren't on everything to start. Let's go to, say, no borders. It looks like we have these little grid lines here, but that's just to show you what the cell walls are. When you print it, it's not going to print out like this. And you always want to kind of make sure your numbers are gridded in so people know when one number ends and the next number begins. And that's up here in this little borders tab. I can come up here. Maybe I want a really thick outer wall, and then maybe I want my inner walls to just have all little borders, and now that looks like that for me. When I print that out, that's going to look really, really nice and clean and neat, and hopefully something that that's gonna present well on the paper, because it's all about how we kind of present ourselves. Okay, I think that's mainly it for formatting. We'll have another tutorial here in a little bit on some other things, but let me see if there's anything else I want to show you. So we talked about centering. We talked about changing the decimal number. We talked about superscripts. We talked about resizing, making our things bigger or smaller. I guess there's something else you could do also. It's called wrapping the text. Maybe this is kind of small, so I can go back here to format cells. And right now I have it set to shrink to fit. But what if I want it to be still large? I can click on this wrap